and I'm not going to talk about where I was, but it was like if I was going into another casino, I would have been probably like 30 minutes late. And the problem was we had a dinner reservation, and we had an appointment before the dinner reservation. So and I was supposed to be there an hour before the dinner reservation, when then it was like crunching the time. So I ended up getting there 15 minutes before, which was great. But it was freaking me out because I was like, oh my gosh. And I hate being late anyways, but we were going to be early until they shut down I-15. I couldn't believe it. So, so if you guys don't know, last night, I told people this morning, but a lot of you were probably asleep because I was up at like 3 or 4 a.m. this morning. I was up at 3. I think we started the blog at like 4 a.m. But I went to bed pretty early because I got home about 9:30 and I ate 2 pounds. I was so full. I should not have ate 2 pounds, but I guess it was good because I woke up with a lot of energy. But because I didn't eat all day till dinner, and I'm gonna tell you, oh my god. But I woke up at 3 and just had like all this energy. I didn't want to go back to sleep because it was like 9:30. So we go to bed early, and that's late for me. I usually go to bed at like 7. But the dinner went well in the sense of the things that I was worried about were not a concern. The alcohol, I found a tiny twinge, but I'm not doing that, so I got through it. But like I said, there was a drink menu, and my client, he doesn't drink, but he said, oh, you can have a drink if you like. I said, oh, no, I'm good. So I folded it and I put it on. There was an open table next to us. I just put it over there to just like, let's not even think about that. But then the waiter comes over and picks it up and like, oh, let me show you guys the drink menu. And I'm just like, just get that out of my mind. I don't need to be thinking about that right now. But it wasn't that tempting where I couldn't, but it was just like, I was just trying to be like, no, I'm not even going to have a second thought. Nope, get out of here. Not going to do a drink. And so then that was gone, and so that part was fine. And then I wanted to not pick the most expensive steak. We were at a very expensive steak restaurant, and my client has it comped, so I shouldn't have worried. But I still try to. You just feel weird like picking a really expensive thing. But everything was expensive. So the cheapest steak was $65, and it was a prime rib, which I found out is not a steak I like. And I asked Richard how I liked my steak prepared, and he said medium rare, which is apparently not how I like my steak cooked either, or at least not at this restaurant, because this thing was like mooing. And my client is someone that likes his steak pretty well done, almost, pretty cooked. And mine comes out, and they served it with horseradish and some sauce that you dipped it in, but I didn't, and I didn't do it with the horseradish. Oof. But it had so much fat, and it came out, it didn't look like it was cooked at all. I mean, it looked like it was raw, and I was like, and my client says to me, oh, I don't know how you can eat that like that. Some people like their steak a certain way, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is not how I like it. But I didn't want to say anything. Which is like, you should send it back, have them cook it more. But I didn't even think to do that, but I wouldn't do that. But it was so bad where, when you're cutting it, it just doesn't even cut. It's like, it's all stringy. I had to like literally pull up my fingers. I'm like, oh. It was not good. And, but I stuck with my diet. So that part was good. As I told him, I'm just doing the protein. And so he likes Brussels sprouts and some little mashed potato thing, as his sides. But the sides you had to pay extra for anyways. So it was like, I'll just do the steak. And then he, asked if I wanted dessert, and I said, no, I'm full. So that part worked out great, but I was really disappointed with the steak. And he got a New York strip. I should have just got that. That was like $75, so I was trying to go, like, I don't like to get the most expensive thing, but his still didn't look that great. I don't know. I was not impressed by this steak restaurant. I'm not going to say the name, but I think the problem is Vegas food just sucks compared to New York. So I usually go to steak restaurants with this guy in New York. I've never been to a restaurant with him in Vegas. And we were kind of comparing, and I just said, yeah, I like the other one better in New York. And he's like, yeah, me too. But it's just, I was trying to be positive, like, oh, they're almost the same, but it's not even worlds the same. And it was so bad. Like, my stomach was a little upset when I got home from that. Like, it was just like the amount of fat on this thing. And I tried to not eat the fat, but like, I guess the other part was leaner, but like the fat. Okay, I sometimes like when I can have a little bit of the fat. Like, I know you're not supposed to eat much of the fat with steak, but like I like to have like with a ribeye or a New York, you get a little bit of that juicy fat, and it's like tasty, and you just get a little bit. This was like gobs of fat, and I tried to take a little sliver, and it was like so bad. I had to literally like take it out of my mouth. I was like, and he didn't notice he was eating. I was like, it was disgusting. And then a horseradish. I didn't even know that was something people put on steak. I guess that's new to me. So that was a real disappointment. But it went really smoothly with the diet thing because this place was kind of weird. Like everything was like nothing was given for free. So there wasn't like free bread. There wasn't, so it was pretty easy. Like everything you had to pay for. You had to pay for every side with your steak. So it was $65 for the steak, and then that's all you got. Mine came with horseradish. But if you wanted anything with it, you had to pay extra. So it was pretty easy to be like, oh, I'm good. I don't need. Where normally, they come with things. Not at this place. Everything was paid for. So he got himself a salad and Brussels sprouts and a little bit of mashed potatoes. It was like these tiny, tiny little portions too. The steaks were massive, but not very good. His New York was like huge for New York too, which the bigger a steak is, is not a good thing to me. That means they fed that cow too much grains and fat, and he was overfed. So, but a lot of these fancy restaurants think the bigger the cut, the better. I'm not. So I was like, that's way too big of a New York strip because, I ate organics forever. And we can't afford it now, so I don't usually eat steak. I'm not a huge fan of steak if it's not organic because it's harder for me to digest. I like the taste of it, don't get me wrong, but steak is hard to digest, and especially if it's that fat, is just like, oof. So, but organic, I didn't ever have a problem, but we just can't afford it. So I'll maybe eat a bite or two of like Richard or if he's making a steak or something, but not very often. But so this steak was a lot of steak for me too. Like when they had no sort of burger thing, I thought about getting burgers, but this place didn't have burgers. Because sometimes I'll do that. I've gone to him at the steak place in New York. I've gotten burgers before instead of steak. But this place only had steak and like they had like shrimp or something. Very small menu. It was like 4 or 5 steaks but it was redundant because there was a bone in and one without bone. Like they were the same. So I felt like they could have had more options of not like they really only had like New York ribeye, the prime rib, filet mignon. Maybe that was it. So it was like your cheapest thing was the prime rib. It was only the best cuts of the steak. They didn't have like skirt steak or flank steak or nothing like that. It was only like the best cuts. But the prime rib was obviously not a cut I like. I was trying to get the affordable one, $65 affordable. It didn't even matter either because he has the whole thing comped. But I've never ordered the most expensive thing on a menu when someone paid for my dinner. I was just be like, oh, let me get the lobster or something, but the prime rib. This place didn't have lobster. I'm just joking. I would never order lobster. It just sounds like something that's expensive. Do you know what's a terrible thing that's expensive? Is calamari. We got it one time. Ugh. Why? I don't understand that at all. What is it like? This like eggs? What is calamari?
Calamari is, I think it's squid, like Squid Games.
No, sorry, not calamari. I'm saying the wrong thing. Calamari is good. The other thing. The thing that people eat that's supposedly caviar. Sorry, calamari is great. Calamari is octopus. Calamari is great. Caviar is the one I was thinking of. Aren't those like fish eggs or something like that? That nasty crap. Sorry, not calamari. I say the wrong things. I say the wrong words all the time. Calamari we love. Me and Richard used to go nuts for calamari. I forgot about that in Panama. Oh, we get that all the time. That is good. Calamari and what is that other stuff we would get? Oh gosh. It's got octopus in the little ceviche. We lived off of ceviche in Panama. But caviar is the one I was looking. That was the word. That stuff. Ugh. I don't know why that's something that's a delicacy. No, thank you. But oh my God. I was watching Big Brother last night. They had the one on the regular TV. So we've been watching the live feeds, but on Sunday they have where they show the nominations or whatever. But the guy says, they come up with these things, they have to say something for why they nominated, so I'm sure they think of it forever. So the guy gets up there and says to one guy, he says, "Your game is so much shit that the toilet's jealous." I was like, it's kind of funny, but that's a ridiculous thing to say on TV. And they were all like, but anyways, the thing with these reality shows that's irritating now is people are so rehearsed now. I used to like when they would just do the reality shows and it would be more like off the cuff in the very beginning. But then what happened is people were doing crazy things. So now they're just so polished. But anyways, last night they gave them alcohol and they were going insane. And I was like, it kind of just made me like happy I'm not drinking, because they literally give them like, they get like one beer a piece, or like they all got one thing. So they sent in like these vodka seltzers, and we were just saying that's probably the best thing if you're trying to get drink. They had like the one can of vodka seltzers, they had beer, and they had wine, but everyone only gets like one. So like you either get a glass of wine, or you get one vodka seltzer, you get one beer, you know. So it's like, because there's like however many of them, they have this. Oh my gosh, they're all sitting there trying to figure out which thing they wanted, and it was like this frenzy for like one drink. And I was just like, I just don't want to be like that, you know what I mean? Like for alcohol. I mean, they were like, oh, they were like, alcohol. We were watching on the live feeds. I don't even know if they'll air that, because it's almost like weird to see like how insane they went for like just a tiny bit of alcohol. And they like to give them a little bit of alcohol to rile them up a little bit, so they like argue and stuff. But then they found in seasons when they used to give them too much, bad things would happen. People would get wasted and get hurt or do dumb things, you know, jump in the pool with their microphones on and stuff. So they only give them a tiny bit, but it's just a weird thing to see someone like, and you know, that's how I get, and I just don't want to be like that, you know. I don't want to be like so obsessed with something. You're like, oh, I mean, it was like they were like in a trance. They went, because they had them go into the room. They have like a room that they deliver the food, and then they close that door, and then they tell them, oh, it's open, you can go get the stuff. Because they can never see the people that come in. They don't see the staff. So the staff comes in through like these little holes in the walls in the house, and then they close them, and then, you know, so they don't ever see the people. So they'll just say, oh, you can go now in the food pantry, and they're like, oh, they knew that what it was going to be, because it was late night. And so they went all there, and then they were walking in like a single file line, going alcohol. I mean, it was like it's the weirdest thing. It's just weird to kind of like see people just so obsessed with something like it's literally poison. You know what I mean? Like we get so into this thing that we're literally like poisoning ourselves. And I just don't want to do that anymore. Like I'm getting, so you guys see I'm feeling healthy again. This is ketosis. So when people thought I was like on all of these things, we're showing it's just ketosis. And you see when I'm actually doing something like alcohol or sugar, I don't have energy. It's the ketosis. That's your body is burning your fat for energy. But the problem is I'm a lean person, so I have to continually eat. That's why I eat 3 pounds a day of beef, so that I don't lean down too much. But I had actually put on, not like a lot of weight, I'm a tiny person, but I was putting on weight in spots I didn't like when I was doing the sugar and alcohol. And my weight hadn't changed that much on the scale, which I don't weigh myself that much, but I was curious. So the other day I was like, okay, I have gone up a little bit, but not as much as like my body had been looking different. Does that make sense? Because it was more like a distribution. And you know, muscle weighs more than fat. So sometimes as you get fit, the number on the scale might go up or down, so don't base it on that. We just sometimes get a gauge once in a while. We don't weigh ourselves very often. When we were, when Richard was first trying to lose the weight, he was weighing himself every day but it's never good to weigh yourself every day, because it'll cause you just major chaos in your brain, because some days you're going to weigh more than other days, and according to your water weight and things like that, so don't ever do that. You'll drive yourself insane. But if you need once in a while, just if your curiosity, like, am I gaining or losing weight, you jump on the scale. But my weight had gone up a little bit, but it was more, I now was distributing my weight in ways that were less attractive, because when people argue that the fat is more attractive than fit, but I think most people deep down would say fit generally looks better, like someone being fit. There's too thin, but there's the fit. And what I like to be is fit, but when I do an eating disorder, I get too thin. So when you guys see photos of me in the past when I was way too thin, that was not the keto diet. I mean, I do get thin, but you never would probably say you might say I'm small, but you wouldn't, you don't look at me as unhealthily when I'm doing the keto diet. It's when I'm doing unhealthily things and that's when Like I said, it might not even be my weight, it's more the distribution of the weight. So like what happens when I do an eating disorder is I get these tiny legs and tiny arms, but then I get like a belly, and I get like my thighs. Whereas when I eat better, the weight just distributes properly. So it's not that it's a different amount of weight, it's just where it's distributing on your body. So that's what I say. So your weight may or may not change, according to, I don't, what your size is. If you're heavy and you start doing keto, then you will lose weight. But let's say you're thin, but you're not healthy. So you might just distribute your weight in a more, a way that you like better. And when I do keto, I love the way it starts to shape my body. I start to, get toned without even having to work out much, just doing like my nunchucks and some push-ups. We really got toned when we used to swim, but we've never swimmed for like too regular of a time because it was always when we could. So like we did swim for like 2 months solid, but that's only when we were in Panama when we had a pool for 2 months. We rarely have had the consistency of a pool that you could swim laps in. We used to always have pools at the apartments we lived at, but they're only open seasonally and you can't swim laps because there's people and they're not made for that. We would try to do a little bit, but you're usually bothering people because usually other people in the pool. We would only do it if there's not someone else in the pool. But here they have a fantastic pool for swimming laps. But the problem is there's only 2 passes for the house, and me and Richard can go 12 times a year. So we are going to go soon now that we're feeling better to at least use our 12 times. But the problem with 12 times is it's not a consistent thing either. And in order for us to get a pass over there, they want to charge $1,000 a year per person. I'm like, that seems high for a gym. Like that seems like we could go somewhere else for cheaper than that. That seems really, really expensive. So we said no. So Gloria and Annette go, which they weren't able to go until we got here because Gloria had stopped paying the HOA and they were banned because of Annette's behavior. They were banned from this facility. So the fact they get to go there now is because of me and Richard, and so they love it. So we don't want to take that away from them. So we let them have the full passes, and then we get the 12 times a year. And we have to go with them. So we go as guests. So we can't go by ourselves. We go as a guest of Gloria and Annette. And they know us, but it's still, they require that because they want to charge people. If they let you go free, then they can't charge you, It's just they're very strict at the foyer for like their little rules. Like Gloria had lost her card, she knew the number and they could look it up, and they, you gotta have the card. So they made her go get the card, which is, it's just in the same community, but we didn't know that she kept, I guess, doing that for like a week or two, and they were like, kept getting on her case. Finally, like, wouldn't let her in one day. We didn't know because Gloria doesn't, this was a while back. So they're very strict over there. The one lady's like very strict. Like, we're just like, everybody's like, you could be nicer. I mean, these people, this is a very nice community, and like people pay a lot of money for their HOAs and for these facilities, and the people, like, some of them are nice, but this one lady is not nice. So I'm like, you could just be nicer to people, She's been very rude to Gloria, but the other lady's very nice to Gloria. So, but yeah, Gloria doesn't like that lady at all. She's the one that made her go get the card. And going, I don't like her. She was rude to us too. She's just rude. She's just snarky, She had like attitude. But most of the people are very nice. The other people were nice. Like when we go, it's just awkward because I'm like so much younger. So I kind of like, everyone like staring at me like the old men, But the older ladies always talk to me, which is nice. Actually, one lady came up to me and invited me to, I have American flag towel. She invited me to their like patriot meetings and stuff, and I was like, okay. But she was actually had been in the Air Force. She was retired Air Force, so we were chatting for a bit because I was, I was in the Air Force for 4 years. So you guys don't know that. I'm a Air Force veteran. I was an airborne surveillance instructor on the AWACS plane. AWACS plane is our airborne warning and control system. That's what AWACS stands for. But it's a Boeing 737 that has a big radar rotodome. So it looks like a regular commercial plane, but then on top there's this like a disc that's black with a like racing strip of white across it, and there's these pillars that hold it up. So it goes above the plane. It's a very recognizable plane because of that radar rotodome. And what that plane is, it's a surveillance plane. So our plane is not a plane. We don't have weapons, and we don't even go super close to the combat. We are away from the combat, and we send the fighter pilots in, and we have we can see more than the fighter pilots can see. So the plane I was on is the plane that tells the fighter pilots where to go. So we link up with the fighter pilots, but then they go on the mission and we can see them and we can see the enemy and friendly, but they can't see. So we tell them they can see a certain, but they can't see as much as, and it's, I can't tell you guys how much you can see because it's top secret actually. Some of the things that the AWACS can do, I'm not allowed to say. So probably now because I think it's been retired, but those were some of the, there's top secret things that, I had a secret clearance, but when you have a secret clearance, you can find out top secret stuff. So, but it's a bigger deal. So when it's top secret, it's like you either have to go check out the top secret stuff or you go into the room, the intelligence room that all top secret stuff. And I actually worked in the intelligence room for a while and lets you shred the top secret stuff and stuff. But on missions, we did the missions where you protect Air Force One. Those ones are always top secret. And you don't know when you're going to take off. You just get like a 2 a.m. showtime, and then you take off at some point during the day. And you don't know where you're going and anything. And your mission crew commander gets a briefcase that's like handcuffed to him of the like top secret stuff. And like he has to then like, he can then take it out when he's in the plane, and then you know then he's the one that has to like check it back in. It's like this crazy thing, but you don't know anything that's going on till like he gets that suitcase, and then you still don't even really know much because he knows more than you, but he tells a little bit. So then you get in the plane and then you go somewhere and then you set up an airspace, and then you don't know when Air Force One is taking off. No one knows when Air Force One is taking off except for the people on the ground that are part of the Air Force One thing, but no one else knows. So you just sit there and you wait and watch the airspace for, it can be up to 24 hours, and then you switch planes if it's longer than that. And then another AWACS comes in because we can only do 24 hours and then we switch off. But you just watch the airspace, and then once Air Force One takes off, you're done and you get to go home. But you have to make sure Air Force One takes off safely and gets in the air and goes on its flight plan, and then you get to go home. But those missions are pretty fun because it's just like, you know, it's all like guarding the president. We did a lot of those. It was George W. Bush when I was in, because I was in from 2002 to 2006. And those were really fun. But most of my missions were going places with the fighter pilots. And what you do is you fly to an area where the fighter pilots have their most fighter pilots usually. So like we were based at Tinker Air Force Base, which is in Oklahoma. There's not a lot of fighter pilots in Oklahoma. So we would usually come either to the West Coast or East Coast for the fighter pilot mission. So what we would do is we would get in the plane and go somewhere. So you'd fly, 6 to 8 hours to go do your mission, and then you meet up with the fighter pilots wherever. A lot of times we go like to Virginia, or they do the red flag over here, you actually land. But a lot of times we don't land. So what you do is, so I flew all over the United States, a lot of times not landing too. So I've been all over the United States in the air, but I've only landed in so many places. But you wouldn't land. So you go fly 8 hours, and then you meet up with them in the air. So they only fly for an hour or two. Fighter pilots don't, they can't fly for very long. It's super expensive too to get fighter pilots in the air. So they only, they'll fly for about an hour or two, and then they land, usually about an hour. So they come up for about an hour, you do your mission, and then you go back. Like that's what most of the missions are. But then you do the ones where you go somewhere. So like when you go on a TDY, temporary duty, they, send you somewhere. Like I went to Ecuador. That one was not a fighter pilot thing. That one was a drug op. We were looking for drug planes and drug boats. So that you fly somewhere and you stay there. We stayed in Ecuador for 2 months. And then when we were in Vegas, we came here for 2 weeks. That is the coolest fighter pilot thing. It's called Red Flag. It's out at Nellis. Red Flag is like the Air Force equivalent of like Top Gun, kind of, where it's like the best fighter pilots in the Air Force come here for this event. And it's one of the biggest fighter pilot like things that they do, where they just have like tons of fighter pilots in the air. And it's the most intense mission I ever did in the air. I did really intense simulations. Simulations are the worst. So simulations can be way worse than what they can put in the air because it's expensive. To put that many planes in the air for training, You know what I mean? They can only put so many. But simulations that you do on the ground before you ever go in the air with your, and you do sim training even when you still fly, they make you do, because it helps you, you know, keep your senses up, because they make it really intense. Simulations are insane. It's like like a war game, like the most intense war game. So what you do in the plane, you're doing on the ground in a simulation. That's what you do for a long time before you go in the air. So when I finally went in the air, I was so good that I was supposed to do anywhere from 5 to 10 flights, and I only did one, because they were like, oh, she doesn't need to, she knows what she's doing, because I was one of the best in the simulations. And so it was quite an honor, but that actually put a big target on my back of like, right away people were like, I'd already got honor grad and all this, so then I get that, and then I got senior airman below zone, and then I got airman of the quarter, and I was always getting all these awards. So, and then they made me instructor before everyone, so my peers were starting to not really like me, because I was kind of like the overachiever, and I kept getting all these things. I didn't want it. I didn't even want senior airman below zone. Senior airman below zone means that, which is such a weird name, but it means you rank quicker than your peers, and it's, so there's 3 ranks that come automatic. It's an airman, airman first class, and senior airman. But airman and airman first class, you all get at the same time. There's no difference. No one can have it any different. It's just according to the time you've been in. Senior airman is the only one that you can have above your peers first, and you can get it 6 months before you can. And part of being senior airman is you get to move off base, because you live in the dorms until you become senior airman, and then on base, and they kind of suck because you're always sharing something. You don't share a room always, but you share like a bathroom, and they're just tiny little places, you know, really small little rooms. So it's good to get to finally move off base. So I got senior, but only one person in your squadron gets senior airman, and squadron is several hundred people.
I hate to interrupt you, but I got your breakfast
here. Cool. I'm not going to eat right now, though, but that looks beautiful. Can you go? As soon as I'm
going to put it in there.
Yeah, put it in our room and put a paper towel on it. I mean, that looks amazing.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to have that in a minute.
I'm working on Gloria stuff right now.
Okay, so. as soon as you're done, as soon as you make yours, I want to eat with you.
Okay.
Put a paper towel over here to kind of keep
this is what we're having.
Keep it warm a little bit.
This is what we have every
meal.
Every meal.
Yeah, that's organic beef burgers.
Yeah.
Grass-fed from Whole Foods, which we normally have to do Smith's, because Whole Foods is just smidge more expensive. But we had to return something yesterday, and since I had to do my call, and I said I want Whole Foods for tonight, and so Richard ended up getting more pounds than I expected him to get. So
did you get that figured out, Gloria?
I said just last night, but he got me a little extra, so a little today. But then I do need to get some more. We don't have enough for the full day. We have 3 pounds left, so he just made 1, and he's gonna have 1, so we'll have 1 more. But anyways, senior airman below the zone is like quite an honor, and there's so many requirements to get it. So pretty much as soon as you get in the Air Force, people are trying to work towards senior airman below the zone, but I never was. I just kept getting awards because I'm an overachiever. That's what people don't know about me. They think it's my job. Whatever, I'm an overachiever, that job too. But I have always just, I never do something half-assed. If I'm into it, I just go full steam, and it's not like a competition thing. It's just my own competitive with myself. But so I was doing all these things like volunteering and doing so many things. Like I had so many things that you get. You're working up your resume, they call it, and I had